Are you a U.S. citizen member of the U.S. military, but your parent or both of your parents are here illegally, meaning that they do not have a legal immigration status in the United States? I want to talk today about a program called Parole in Place that might help either both or one of your parents to obtain lawful status in the United States. What is Parole in Place? Parole in Place is a program for certain people who are immediate relatives of somebody who's in the U.S. military. A parent of a U.S. citizen who is age 21 or over is considered to be an immediate relative. Why is Parole in Place so helpful? The reason that it's helpful is because normally, if your parent came to the United States illegally, that's to say they don't have proof that they entered the country with a visa, then normally the process for them to obtain lawful status is much more complicated. And in many cases, unfortunately, it's not possible. However, with Parole in Place, what it does is that it allows your parent to obtain a lawful status even though they came to the United States illegally. So in this video, I'm going to explain what the general requirements are. However, you should definitely schedule a consultation if this sounds like something that you might be interested in learning more about. If you think that maybe one or both of your parents might qualify for this, you definitely should schedule a consultation to receive specific advice about your case in particular. But generally speaking, the way that you apply for Parole in Place is that you file Form I-131 along with supporting documentation. What is that supporting documentation? It includes proof that your parent did not come here legally. So oftentimes that's with a declaration from them explaining how they came to the United States, when they came here, who they may have come with, what the circumstances were of their entry. Again, if they ever came here with a visa, then this is not going to work. Parole in Place will not work. It's only if they did not come here with a legal status. They're also going to need to provide proof of your service or ongoing service in the U.S. military, or if you are a veteran of the U.S. military. You do not necessarily have to be on active duty in order for your parent to qualify for Parole in Place. The other thing about Parole in Place is that it's a discretionary program. That means that even though your parent might qualify to apply for it, it does not guarantee that immigration is going to grant them Parole in Place. So what that means is that you would also want to include evidence that your parent deserves to have the Parole in Place. So that could be proof if they have any ties to their community, if they attend church, maybe they have paid their taxes. Maybe you have proof that they don't have any criminal record. That's something that could be obtained as well. Perhaps you have other siblings in the United States who they are the primary caretakers of. And also you would want to include any type of proof that you have been receiving awards from the U.S. military, any kind of perhaps education that you've been receiving while you've been a member of the U.S. military. Those things can also help as well. What happens when your parent gets Parole in Place? If Parole in Place is granted, they are given what's called an I-94. This is a document that tells immigration and your parent that they are allowed to be legally in the United States. And with this document, in some cases, they can also later apply for their green card. But at a minimum, with the Parole in Place I-94 document, your parent can apply for a work permit, and they are also given what's called deferred action, which means that they are not at risk of being deported while they have the I-94 parole in place. Now, lastly, I want to briefly cover situations when your parent might also be able to request their residency based on having been granted Parole in Place. Now, this works if your parent only has one unlawful entry to the United States in the majority of cases. Now, if your parent has multiple unlawful entries to the United States, First of all, it's going to be harder, most likely, for them to get parole in place in the first place. Again, because it is a discretionary benefit. So typically, it's only granted when the applicant, your parent, has one unlawful entry. They don't have any record with immigration, they don't have deportations, they've never been arrested at the border, nothing like that. In a case like that, your parent, once they have the parole in place, most likely will be able to file for their green card. However, there are other requirements for the green card. So it's very important to talk about the case with an immigration lawyer before deciding to also apply for their green card. Now, if your parent, let's say for some reason, they get parole in place, even though they have more than one unlawful entry to the United States. Because again, it is discretionary. If the case calls for it, immigration could choose to still give them that parole in place, even though they may have more than one unlawful entry. However, in a case like that, it's less likely that your parent would then be able to also apply for their green card. So they may end up just having the parole in place with their work permit and the protection from being deported, but not necessarily able to ask for their green card. So this is just a very general overview of what parole in place is. One other thing I did forget to mention about why parole in place is so important is that by being granted that I-94 document, the law is treating your parent as though they came to the United States lawfully. That is what allows your parent in some situations to then ask for their green card through you. Normally, if your parent came to the United States without documents, then it's much more difficult for them to apply for a green card through you. And in many cases, it's not possible. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions about the Parole in Place program, please feel free to call me to set up a consultation. The number is 760-812-3778, and I look forward to speaking with you.